So another key thing that I had learned is that to feel fulfilled in life, you needed to feel purposeful about it. And so I wondered, what is my purpose? I was hoping it would just fall in my lap, and there was as someone said, I think on The Secret, that you could find a billboard in the sky that says, Shanna Covey, this is your purpose. Oh, that would have made it so much easier. But that wasn't the case. I didn't feel like I had a specific talent. I didn't think that I could go and, be a singer or an actress or whatever and save y'all the earache for me not singing. My friends in high school used to joke with me because for some reason I've just never been able to pick up lyrics very easily. So I would kind of just say them after they had been said. So they just kind of called me the backup singer. But anyway, point being that I was really locked on to trying to find out what I was purposeful about, and just honestly had no clue as to how to figure that out. Then I was listening to a Wayne Dyer CD. I think it was The Power of Intention. And he said that if you're trying to find out your true purpose, you should put yourself into service to others. And when I first heard that, I thought kind of sat kind of odd with me. I'd never really volunteered in my life. I cared about people, but I had never really been a person in service to others. And so I kind of thought about that, and I thought, well, okay, let me be open to this idea. And a couple of other things happened around that same time. This is probably about 2007. I remember that I was watching a special on Oprah's Leadership Academy that she opened in Africa, and I remember just learning about the need for education in the developing world, and seeing how they didn't have it and what strides they went through to get to school. And something just started kind of lighting up inside of me. And so I just sort of wondered about it, and the particular Oprah situation didn't allow for direct volunteers, so there wasn't a way to go and do it that way. Another thing that happened, which I forgot to mention, was when I was in college, I remember hearing someone come and speak to us about the Peace Corps. And at that time, I really never known anyone to join the Peace Corps. I think I'd heard of it, but I really didn't know anything about it. And when that person was speaking about it, I remember looking back on it, 2020 in hindsight, I felt this like huge light inside me going, wow, that's so cool. That's what I call your essential self, your intuition speaking to you. But in that same moment, I didn't know it at the time, but in that same moment, I had this other voice in my head just totally override it and say, wow, that's cool for those who can do it, but Shanna Covey, no, that's not you. You can't do that. That wasn't a part of my self-concept, my self-identity. So my conditioned self just totally overrode it in that moment. It wasn't until years later that I've been kind of looking back on it, and it's 2020 in hindsight, and I see how my intuition was always there, but I was so conditioned away from it that I was overriding it. So anyway, it was that light. That's a key to finding your own heart. That light was lighting up, and as I start piecing the pieces together, that's when I eventually went to Costa Rica, and eventually then I learned about the Oprah School, and that kind of thought, oh wow, that sounds great. I never even worked with kids before. I'd never babysat. I'm kind of scared to babysit. Maybe not so much anymore, but I was, and just hadn't really been around kids. But the concept of it just sounded amazing. Help educate people in the developing world who didn't have an education. So I guess some more months went by, and of all things, I happened to catch another Oprah episode, and I saw this man named John Wood, who he's the founder of Room to Read, another organization that focuses on literacy in the developing world. They build schools, they build libraries, and again, I was like, boom, lighting up inside, and just thinking, wow, that's so cool. I want to be a part of that. I still had that desire to be a direct volunteer, but they didn't have direct volunteers either. So I donated in other ways, but so I finally went online and started researching volunteer abroad opportunities, and came across another organization, Global Vision International, and saw that they had a teaching program for Indigenous kids in a couple of different places in Central and South America. So I thought, wow, okay, a direct volunteer opportunity. It said I didn't need a teaching background, and I I didn't even have to know Spanish perfectly, and I thought, all right, perfect. I'm suitable for this. So I went in, I guess, the fall of 2007, and I went for a short time. I think it was 2 months, but that was the first time in my life that I felt purposeful and engaged in what I was doing. It was amazing. It also broke my heart when I had to say goodbye to those kids. That was one of the most emotional things that I had ever done. But I was so amazed by the experience because finally I knew what it felt like to feel purposeful and engaged. So I came back home. I had to come back home and make more money. I went back into corporate America, and I'd been going back on my terms, which had been another evolution that was going on. I was going as an independent contractor, so that was helping me not feel that I was a part of that rat race that I didn't want to be in. Instead, it was utilizing and leveraging my skill set to help me make money so that I could get back to another volunteer opportunity or doing something more long term. So I came back and I started working for a little over 2 years and just kept saving my money, and the intent was to go back to that same program in Guatemala and stay there long term. Well, in 2010, I actually did. I went and I was there for almost a year, and it was an incredible experience. I even got more connected with the kids. I had much more time with them, got to know every single one of them, loved them unconditionally, and just felt real comfortable in that environment. Again, comfortable being in the developing world and comfortable doing that. It seemed like things were lining up, and such that I thought, my goodness, I've got to lock my sights on this, and this is how this is where I need to build my life. This is where it's going. So I went forward with making plans with another volunteer I met down there, another girl who was she was extremely passionate. She was so perfectly suited for teaching and working with kids. She's absolutely amazing and on fire. So we teamed up together and we started talking about creating our own project and just starting another one and trying to help other kids that didn't have access to education. And so we got back home. She lived in Florida and I'm in Texas, and we started planning it, working on the dream. And then all of a sudden I started having some interesting feelings come up again, and I was totally, it was a total curveball. I started feeling, I don't know, I guess it was my intuition that was still coming through, and I felt frustrated because I didn't understand this uneasiness that I was feeling. I was so locked in on the plan because I'd never felt that purposeful or engaged in anything, and I've been spending the last 10 years trying to figure out what that thing was and how to make it my life's work. That's what I like to call it, my life's work. I don't really like the word career or anything like that, but life's work sounded pretty cool. And anyway, I was just sort of thrown for a major loop because all these feelings were coming up for me, and I didn't understand, but I think it was necessary because I know that stillness speaks. And so when I got quiet, that's when the next answer came from me, which was it wasn't in my plan. It wasn't in my plan to continue on that project with my friend Lindsay. It was absolutely her plan, and she's doing amazing, and I'm going to have her on here whenever she's ready to promote her organization. But I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that here I was back at square one again. I thought that I had just totally figured it out. It's not to say I'm not passionate about it. I just knew that according to my intuition, according to knowing my heart, that wasn't the next step for me. It wasn't where I was supposed to go. But it was another crazy emotional struggle, emotional understanding. And it was, again, some more lessons I learned through that process. I want to get into those more in other sessions, but it was lessons of letting go, surrendering, trusting, and finally leading to an inner knowing. Now, this is a concept that I had heard about through listening to Wayne Dyer and reading other books. And they describe this concept. I knew it intellectually, but for the first time, I know what it means to have an inner knowing. And so in listening to that inner knowing, that's why I have decided to create this blog, because I feel so strongly that I'm supposed to share this information. I'm supposed to share it, to try to touch other people who maybe at any point in this process that somehow has led them away from their heart and they're supposed to come back to it. You have to ultimately do the work, but I think that I can share pointers that might help you know when you're going cold in the terms of being away from your heart, or getting warmer and getting back closer to it. To finally, to when you know you're home, you know what it means to have an inner knowing. Because I just found it and just got back there. I just got home. And anyway, I hope you'll join me on this journey. Today's whole session was about knowing your heart, and there is so much more that goes into it, so much more than I mentioned today, that I hope to go into more detail with you in the coming sessions. But it won't only be on this, as I mentioned in my introduction. We're going to touch on all kinds of topics. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you have an amazing day, evening, week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.